Alright, so welcome into my little studio everyone, and today we'll be talking about polyrhythms and a little bit of metric modulation. And I understand that all of us are not at the same place in our drumming journey, so to make this a little bit for everyone, we'll start out basic and then make it a little bit more advanced as we go. So to start off, what is a polyrhythm? Well, it basically just means that we have more than one rhythm going on at the same time. So all of us can play a polyrhythm. For instance, if we play eighth notes with one hand and quarter notes with one hand, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a 2/1 or 1/2 polyrhythm because the right hand plays two notes while the left hand plays one note. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1. So it's a 1/2 polyrhythm, but we usually don't call it a polyrhythm because it's so basic to us. So what we will be going into now is a 3/4 and a 4/3 polyrhythm. Alright, so with this lesson I will put up a downloadable PDF that I strongly suggest you download so that you can follow along. I will be basing this all on what I've written in the PDF. So we'll start with the 4/3 and we'll be playing this in 3/4. We'll be playing it with our feet, and I put a minor fingering here just so you can hear it a little bit clearer. So we'll start out in 3/4 and our left foot will be playing quarter notes. So basically just 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So on top of this, we now have to play 4 notes on the bass drum during the same amount of time we played 3 notes here. So for the whole bar, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. We have to play 4 notes over there. It's going to sound like this, and I'll soon show you how to figure this one out. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Alright, so in order to play this, we'll count 16th notes in 3/4. So 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a. And we will accent with our right foot every third 16th notes. So 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a. That will create this polyrhythm. So 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 1. Okay, so next we'll be going into the 3/4. We'll be playing a 4/4 and our bass drum will keep quarter notes here. So it's basically going to be based on 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's going to sound like this. So it's basically the same thing. It's just depending on where we focus, it's either a 4/3 or a 3/4. In this case, I always learned this the easiest way as thinking wash the car and wax it. Wash the car and wax it. It's just a funny little rhythm and words that help you remember how it sounds. So in order to count this correctly, we will count triplets in the 4/4, eighth note triplets. So 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. And with our left foot, we'll play every fourth triplet. So 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, Okay, so if you can't play this yet, don't worry, just take some time and practice this. It doesn't come too easily, but it's a good way of having a basic understanding of polyrhythms and being able to play the 3 against 4 and 4 against 3 with your feet. Alright, the next step will be adding 16th notes to whatever is our underlying rhythm. So check this out. So we'll start with the 4/3 in the 3/4. And this will be a little bit easier because we already counted 16th notes in order to play our polyrhythm. So we just have to play everything we count. And I suggest you start this really slow. Alright, so now for the 3/4, it will be a lot more complicated because we have to play the 16th notes, but in order to figure out our polyrhythm, we were counting 8th note triplets, so they will kind of clash and flam a little bit. So before we start adding the foot, let's start playing 16th notes to the bass drum, to the quarter note, and then try to learn how to count 8th note triplets against that. This will take some practice, but just stay with me. And another way of practicing this is trying to put on a metronome that can play this for you. Or if you have a metronome that can change how it's playing, make it play 16th notes with you for the first 2 bars and then switch to playing 8th note triplets so you hear how the click lines up with your 16th notes. Alright, so now to play our polyrhythm, we have to accent every 4th triplet when we're counting this out loud while playing the 16th notes. So, and you can see how that really splits your brain having to focus on different things. You kind of have to put the hands and the bass drum on autopilot so that you can keep counting and making sure your left foot lands with the triplets and doesn't flam outside of that. Alright, yeah, so it gets really weird there with the half note triplet against the 16th notes. It's just something we have to get used to, and it's a good brain separation exercise. So once we're comfortable with this, how about we apply some paradiddles? So starting with the 4/3, we'll be playing exactly the same thing as before, just that our hands have to be playing a paradiddle. So since a paradiddle switches leading hand every quarter note, and it's a 3/4, we have to play 2 bars before everything repeats again. Because basically, 1, 2, 3, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 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 it takes those 2 bars for us to land with the right hand on 1 again. So we could start getting our feet going. Accenting quarter notes here creates a really cool feel, and it's almost easier to keep track of where you are. Alright, so now with our 3/4, the difficulty level increases even more, because it was already hard to play 16th notes while thinking about the 8th note triplets and making sure the left foot follows that. But now we have to play a paradiddle on top of that. So it's really about getting it into autopilot, like I said before, even though we're playing paradiddles. So I would suggest starting out the same way by playing the bass drum 1, 2, 3, 4 and playing paradiddles to that, and then start thinking about the 8th note triplets and try to add them in. So okay guys, so if you haven't done that before, that's more than enough to practice. But now we'll be getting into metric modulation. So in our 3/4, when we're playing the 4/3, those 4s are quarter note quadruplets. So now we'll be modulating by taking those quarter note quadruplets and turning them into our new quarter note pulse. This is kind of tricky, but follow me on this one. So now when modulating from a 4/3 into a 3/4, we will actually speed up. So it's not an implied metric modulation, it is an actual metric modulation. Our 16th notes will first follow our left foot and then start following our right foot. And since our left foot is playing slower, when we're playing 16th notes to this, compared to this, we will actually have to move our hands faster. So the quarter note moves faster in our 4/4 here. So I suggest you start off by just playing with the 3/4 until you feel comfortable to try to match your 16th notes to your bass drum. So it's kind of tricky to get at first, but try to make the separation in your brain and just think of, okay, I'm playing my 16th notes to my left foot, that's my pulse. And then when you're ready to leave it, you should start thinking of your right foot as your pulse and matching your 16th notes to that. So here's another example where it's great to be able to count the 3 here and the 4 here as 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Making sure that you have that before you try to match your 16th notes to both of them. So once you got that down, it's time to modulate back. So in our 4/4, the 3, they are half note triplets. Now we're going to make those half note triplets turn into our new quarter note pulse. Okay, so now in order to modulate back, we're actually slowing down because we're playing 16th notes to the 4, and now we're going to play 16th notes to the 3 instead. So we'll be starting with the fast one, so to speak, and then go into the 3/4. So same here, it's very important that you can count the 4 there and the 3 there and start to think ahead so that you're matching your 16th notes here first and then start thinking about matching your 16th notes to the quarter note pulse of your foot. Alright guys, so if you come this far, it's time for the final challenge. Here we'll be playing constant 16th notes as paradiddles, and we'll be playing 2 bars of the 3/4 with the 4/3 polyrhythm, and then modulate into the 4/4 with the 3/4 polyrhythm, and then modulate after 2 bars of that. So 2 bars 3/4, modulate into 4/4, 2 bars of 4/4, modulate back into 3/4, and then loop that over and over. Alright, so now as I said, we'll be playing 2 bars of each and modulating in between them all the time. I would start with the 3/4. I feel it's a little bit easier to start with that one. So let's do it. 1, 2, 3. And the end goal here is to kind of free your mind and to make sure your feet are not speeding up when you're switching from the 3/4 to the 4/4. They should be playing exactly the same speed. It's just your hand that's going to adjust the 16th note rate to whichever is the current quarter note. Alright guys, thank you for being a part of this lesson. I hope you got something out of it, whether it was the introduction to polyrhythms or the final challenge. I hope you had fun. I sure did. Have a great week and I'll talk to you soon.